What's some of like the crazy stuff you seen guys spending their NIL money on?
Spending NIL money on, Stanford. We're pretty smart guy. I mean, half my team's econ
Right.
majors, so they're throwing that stuff in stocks and all that stuff. But other than that, I know a few guys got Rolexes. Um, I know one dude bought his mom a car. I ain't gonna say who, but I
Right.
know one dude bought his mom a car. That's about as crazy as it gets. But like around here, Stanford, man, yeah, it's investments. It's investments around here, man.
That's a real Stanford answer right there.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, gentlewomen, you listen to the Vet Moves podcast where you get courtside seats to the shortcuts you can only learn through experience. I'm your host, Anthony Goods, the better looking of the three Stanford gentlemen here, but we're not gonna spend too much time on that. Let's get into our first guest of this evening. Veterans first. It is former defensive back from the most prestigious university in the land, Stanford University. He's also an entertainment lawyer, author of the NIL book, which you can find at thenilbook.com. And much love to our visiting NIL expert for this episode, Jerome Jackson. Romy Rome, what's good?
Yo, what up, AG? Appreciate you having me out here. You know what I'm saying? Give a little shine to the book first and foremost, right?
First and foremost, hold it up,
gotta
man.
keep it P, all right? So yeah, pick it up at www.thenilbook.com anywhere you want to.
Yeah, it's funny, man. Doing a little research on this on this episode, man. I seen your old Stanford bio, and two things.
No.
Listen, two things that stood out to me, and this is ancient archives. We're talking like 2008 here. Two things that stood out to me. Your favorite website was YouTube.com at that time, and
Man,
and then the other thing is like you said, the one thing that you would change about college football is to pay the players. And
man.
it's so funny that that'll be obviously one of the topics of our conversations today, man. But nah, that's great. Yo, what was you doing on YouTube back then?
Man, that's a great question. I'm honestly surprised I didn't put something crazy like blackplanet.com or something. Okay.
Nah,
But
but
yeah, you see, I was man before my time.
nah, I see, man. You was a visionary for real. But our second guest is from the great state of Kansas, another Midwestern guy. Forgot to mention that with my man Rome, but all Pac-12 honorable mention in 2022, Pac-12 all defensive honorable mention, and Pac-12 all tournament team member in 2022. He's currently in his senior season at the most prestigious university in the land. Please give a nice welcome for my man Spencer Jones. What's going on, brother?
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me on here, man. It's an honor for me.
Nah, man, it's just great to get all Stanford guys on the podcast. It's funny, man. I feel like I got every other episode. It's a Stanford guy, man, and it's kind of cool to just see, you know, where we all end up. Like me and Rome used to be. He was outside. I was studying. But you know what I'm saying? We all used to be, on the same campus, and then like we look up like 10, 15 years later, guys are all in some amazing places, and I'm pretty sure 10 years later from now, you're probably still gonna be hooping, but you probably have your hands in a lot of different things at that time, man. So it's a pleasure to watch the journey from a young age.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Yeah, I hope to be doing something. Hope to get something out of this degree for sure.
Nah, you will, man. But keep bouncing that ball, man. Keep bouncing that ball. But the topic of today, obviously, we're gonna be talking about NIL, name, image, and likeness, and we're gonna let the expert kick this one off, man. Like, what is NIL, and how do we arrive at this point, Ron?
Okay, so yeah, like you said earlier, NIL stands for name, image, and likeness, and so it talks about the rights that anybody in the entertainment industry is licensing or selling in order to be to appear uh, in some place for money, right? Publicly displayed for money, and so that's how we kind of got here. Is that it started with the case a long time ago, back in our day when people were playing NCAA football on PlayStation 2. Okay, and so one of the case was the Keller case. It was a quarterback from Arizona State, and he realized, like a lot of folks, that NCAA, the EA Sports hadn't actually paid to have his likeness in that game, right? And so, you know, you look through the contracts that we've all signed with the school that talks about, you know, what your rights are and what rights they have. And they said, okay, it looks good for your Stanford, you know, for the Stanfords of the world to, you know, display you and to put your name on a jersey and all of that. But it doesn't say anything about, you know, companies like EA Sports or anybody else to be able to use it for a video game, for something completely separate than your athletics at the school. And so then basically after that case, which he won, right, EA Sports was ruled that they couldn't use any of the players' image and likeness. And so they had to stop making the games. And that's why we haven't had NCAA basketball or football in the last, you know, 10, 12 years. And so if you were a part of it like I was, I got cut a check from my image and likeness being illegally and unauthorized in the game. So so that's how we got here, is that after eventually everybody wanted to kind of go back from there, right? You know, and there's been a larger conversation about getting student athlete name, image, and likeness rights to be able to be used again. And it kind of spun off of the conversation of whether or not we should be paying the players out of all the money that's coming into the NCAA and its respective conferences. And so from that conversation, we decided that we should allow players to make money on their own using their name, image, and likeness without paying out of the TV money, but allow them on their own to go ahead and make that money. And so that's kind of where the change started. And so in July 1st of 2020, we changed the rules, right? So I think we're a full year and a half now past that. And so since then, everybody is able to make money off their name, image, and likeness in college sports without compromising their eligibility. So that's how we got here.
That's what's
I hate
up,
that that
man.
came. I hate that that came from, like, you know, because I miss NCAA football 14, man.
Man.
I mean, I love the, you know, I love the NIL stuff now, but I hate that was the cost.
Nah, for sure. It's funny, man. I remember being overseas when the checks started to go out for the video games. And you know, I used to be talking to the other Americans, and like we used to be messing around because they were coming out in segments. Like, you know, certain players would get them like months ahead of the others. Be like, yo, you ain't get your check yet. You know what I'm saying? And they'd be like, oh, that's because you was light skinned on yours. You know what I mean? They ain't use your likeness. But yeah, man, I think you know, one thing I noticed with the whole NIL is just kind of like there's just like pro nature that has been added to college sports. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, there's, you know, depending on the schools and different situations, there's, you know, there's money involved, there's contracts and things of that nature. Like, Spencer, do you think that what's going on right now with NIL, do you think it's preparing you in a way to be a professional athlete?
Yeah, no, it's definitely preparing you to be an athlete. I mean, you know, the college sports, it's always been a business. So I mean, that's the thing. I mean, like, you know, they make you feel like you're amateurs, but you're not really. I mean, you're pretty much putting out a product out there. So I mean, just the NIL that shows you it's a business, shows you how to, you know, when now that you're making money, how to deal with the taxes, how to consider, you know, getting all this money in this situation. You know, there's a lot of things to consider with it. So I think it's definitely helpful if, you know, for people who are using it like that, you know, using it just as an accessory, not you know, not taking NIL for like their main reason to go somewhere. But you know, it just depends on the person for whether that's going to be a pro in their con or a con for their college career.
Yeah, because I feel like that's kind of like the thing right now in college football and basketball. It's almost like free agency, like every summer. You know what I mean? Different schools are coming in with NIL deals, man. It's like, but it's like at 19, 20 years old, you know what I'm saying? How do you say no? Like, you know what I'm saying, to another school? Like, essentially you're gonna play. Like, I mean, what's the draw to keep a player in one particular school or situation?
Yeah, no, I get that. I feel like the biggest thing is it's I mean, it works like that in the free agency for like the guys who are at the top, you know, those guys, those Caleb Williams guys who, you know they're going to be lottery picks, you know they're going to make all that money. But when that starts trickling down to the guys who, you know, need that college experience to develop, need those years with the same coach, same staff, rather than bouncing around to like 4 different spots, you know, listen to everybody outside telling them they should be this, they should be that. They're not going to get, you know, they're not going to get what they needed to get to in order to get to that next level. And that's where you'll see it hurt a lot of kids. But But beyond that, like it's great that guys at the top and even guys around here that we're making millions of dollars for these schools for the wins that we put in, the time that we put in. It's great to have us get some of that back.
Okay, and now let's just say when a contract comes through, or a potential offer comes through, what are some things that you're looking for in that contract, or with that brand?
With that brand, I mean, first you always got to do your research on a brand based on whether it aligns with your values. You look at who they're partnered with, what they support, and all that stuff, because that stuff will come back. That stuff will come back to bite you, especially when you're looking to go professionally. I mean, like, these guys in interviews ask you about everything, and if you have you try to want to keep as little blemishes as you can off that record. So that's usually what I look for. I also like to consult. I always like to consult with. They give you at least at Stanford, they give you a legal team, or at least resources to a legal team to get with, just so you make sure everything's compliant, because sometimes they won't check as clearly the rules on compliances between your schools, and some of them differ. Like, I know at Stanford, we can't really use, Stanford's huge on their image, being one of the top schools in the nation. They don't want any blemishes on their image, so we can't really use hardly. It's so hard for me to use like a Stanford logo in any of my deals or anything like that. But like other schools, like I think like Ohio State or Kansas, I know for sure they don't mind. They don't mind. So it differs school to school. So you really got to pay attention to all those like little things in the fine print.
Yeah, and I imagine too, with these brands, they have you creating content in certain instances, or sometimes they're probably creating it for you, and I think it's super important in that regard. I think like you start trickling into the topic of like intellectual property. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's something that Jerome and I have discussed on different occasions. But Jerome, what do you think? How important is it for these athletes to while they're working these deals to protect their IP?
I mean, I like what Spencer talked about, that the school provides you with some access to a legal team or someone to help you in the process, because if you haven't gone to law school, if you don't deal in this particular type of law, like what do you really know about your intellectual property? You know what I mean? What do you really know about copyrights, about trademarks, about all this stuff? And so I think first and foremost, giving you access to folks that can speak to you, intelligibly about it, and put you on the right path at 18, 19, 20, 21. I mean, this is you're light years ahead of everybody else in the entertainment industry right now. And so I love that. I love to see that. Because more so than knowing all the right answers is knowing some good questions. Right. So the next time you're in situations, you've already had the same kind of conversations about how to protect it. What are you licensing? What do you get? What should be involved in this deal? So what you're supposed to ask, and if we didn't talk about any of that sort of thing in your next deal, or in the deal 2 deals from now, you know that there's something going on. You know that there's something wrong. So I like the rhythm that you're getting into about talking about it. And then as you see from the fact that Stanford won't let you use all their logos and all of that stuff, you see the value in having a good trademark that everybody recognizes, that everybody got value in. You get it, right? You see it. And so when your time comes and your logo gets big and people can recognize you and your products based on the design that you've got, that's going to be great for you to understand how to license that out.
Yeah, no, I think it's man, I think they're getting a little too much help, man. We just got to throw them in the water, man. Let them go figure it out. Let them go hire a lawyer. You know what I mean? Pay by the hour. You know what I mean?
All right.
It's always dope that they got that level of support. One thing I just thought of, man, is like, I don't know if you guys peeped it, but I remember when I was probably like as soon as I started leaving school, especially like playing like professional basketball overseas, like, everybody was coming out with like a logo. And I'm like, bro, like you're playing in Romania. Like nobody cares about your initials. Like nobody's going to buy anything with your initials. But I think about it now, I think logos and stuff like that kind of make a little more sense, as you're starting to, market yourself. Let's just say even now, probably in high school, and things of that nature. So would you say that, let's just say a high school kid starting to build his identity and things like that, you think it's important to establish yourself, with a logo, start thinking about your own brand identity, and this is for both of y'all. You think it's important to start thinking about that stuff even earlier now, like in high school, to prepare yourself? Obviously they can make money in high school now, but also preparing yourself for college.
Yeah, Spencer, what you think?
I think so. Yeah, I think less part on the logo, more on the identity. Like you want to know, what your core values are. Just like any college that tries to build a culture, they have core values on what they stand for. Like that's something, the earlier you can build on that, the earlier you can establish that, the earlier you can build on it. So I think it's always great to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I agree, right? Like, a high school, if you are that big, if you are that dude on campus, you know what I mean, like, what was it, Master P's son that got all that money from Tennessee State? Like, yeah, if you're them, okay, get somebody to write your initials and some cursive and draw some characters behind it. Yeah, go ahead, get your logo. But everybody else, nah, you need to start thinking about ways that you want to engage with other businesses, and what stuff do you see yourself doing, what's a good lane for you, and how you get down. But aside from that, you don't need no logo at 16. Don't nobody know you. You know what I'm saying? If you Charlie Woods, okay, maybe, you know what I mean, maybe you, but aside from that,
Yeah, I will say that there are a lot of athletes these days that try to build their like clothing brands and stuff like that, and nobody outside their family is wearing that. To be honest, like it's nice, it's nice to act like that a few times for sure.
Yeah.
Yo, Spence, like what's some of like the crazy stuff you seen guys spending their NIL money on?
Spending the NIL money on, Stanford. We're pretty smart guy. I mean, half my team's econ majors, so they're throwing that stuff in stocks and all that stuff. But other than that, I know a few guys got Rolexes. I know one dude bought his mom a car. I ain't gonna say who, but I know one dude bought his mom a car. That's about as crazy as it gets. But like around here, Stanford, man, yeah, it's investments. It's investments around here, man.
That's a real Stanford answer right there.
Yo, Rome, what you would have done with some NIL money back in 2007 ish?
Yeah, I'd have probably got a car. It would have been for my mom. It would have been for me. We'd have been rolling around campus. We'd had, because we was back in the days of spinners, and you know what I'm saying, like and 15-inch subs in the back. Like we'd have been thumping up on campus. So it'd have been a nice little. Oh, okay, I see Ron going. There you go. Yeah, I heard him the other day. We'd have been on that.
Yeah, nah. I mean, I for sure would have been spending money on dumb stuff back then, man. But I think. But I think even going back to like the brand identity conversation, I've seen, some young fellas that I know, seemingly making decent money off the NIL, but they're still posting like rap lyrics on their Instagram captions and things like that. How do you guys see, let's just say, something like that? Like, okay, you're posting like explicit rap lyrics on your captions and things like that. Like, what potential could a person like that be missing out on in regards to brand interaction?
I guess I'll start this one out. I don't like. There aren't too many companies, or at least people like the guys that I know that they get a lot of deals or get a lot of those big deals. They have some stuff on their social media with expletives, and like it's a few things. It definitely depends on your brand a little bit, but none of it's excessive. None of it's excessive. Maybe like a couple posts that have like an expletive that's not even fully spelled out or stuff like that. So like some of that stuff you can get away with, but there are some. I know some guys who like lost some stuff based off like a picture they had. There's like maybe an alcohol bottle and there's something in the background or something like that when a post came out when they weren't 21 yet or something like that. And like some brands will cut stuff off of that. Some of them will just tell you to take it down. And even if they tell you to take it down, the guy said he lost a couple of deals from them, or a couple of like incentives he used to get from them after that. So it still was some consequences. So I mean, I always say it's good to keep all that stuff clean. You never know who's looking at your social media. You never know who's looking at any of that. So I try to stay away from that as much as possible.
Nah, for real though. Like everybody clowned Will Smith when we was coming up, but like that's the way to go for your social media presence and all of that stuff, right? No cussing, no ethnic slurs, no none of that, right? You keep it PC, PG, right? So that you get, because I mean, when you get to bigger brands, they can't afford the scandal, right? And they're not gonna put up with it. So it's like, keep yourself straight laced, because you're still gonna be known for hoop, right? You're still gonna score buckets and be exciting and passionate about the game, and you're still gonna get to have some swag in other ways and stuff. But as long as you're not giving hard lines, of wow, he said that, or associated with some scandal like that, yeah, you get way more checks, by playing it clean. And it's other things that come along with that too, because I think it was like NBA YoungBoy who I think based on his content or whatever, he got flagged and pulled off of YouTube or whatever. I think they blocked his YouTube channel. And so it's like, if you really doing this, if you're really getting money and you're promoting things and you're, if you're making a major presence on a social media channel or something like that, having stuff that's too far to the left, or too far out of the box can cost you money. Because he was talking about, his YouTube channel was making so much money from the subscribers and from the ads and stuff that he was doing. Like, he's losing real money just by, being a little too extreme. And so if you can avoid it by, just taking that word out, taking the other ones out, then do it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a fine line, because I mean, social media for a lot of guys, especially, I'm pretty sure, the younger generation, it's fun, you know what I'm saying? And at the same time, now you're using it as a vehicle to drive business. There's that fine line that you really, don't want to cross. And, I think above everything else, like, you really have to think about this as like a part of, your performance in a way too, because you're trying to bring in more money, but at the same time, you don't want it to be a distraction and, things of that nature. But, I think just thinking about it, like, Spence, have you seen like NIL? Because when NIL first came out, I was thinking like, it's going to be great for the players to start getting paid. But I can see, and I've seen it at a professional level, guys getting jealous or, messing with team chemistry because so-and-so's making more money than me, or I'm playing against so-and-so, he's making more money, I'm about to go at his head, and that's aside from the strategy. Have you seen, like, NIL become a distraction in regards to team chemistry, or, maybe even heard about it, elsewhere?
I'll say around Stanford, not so much, just because we have a great team culture, great team chemistry around, even though there are the guys who earn a lot more, a lot less. We don't really talk about it too much. I mean, maybe we'll be interested in the business side of things for some of the guys who are getting deals and how they do it and everything they got to do. But other than that, we try to keep the zeros out of whatever the is in their pocket or anything like that. But no, you've definitely seen it. You've definitely seen it come up a few times. I remember in Miami with they had Nigel Pack, who came from K-State. Was got a big bag. I forget how much it was, but I think it was like 6-7 figures. And then you had a guy who was already there, like an all ACC player, Isaiah Wong, who was pissed about that and trying to and because Nigel got that thing, he was trying to restructure his with one of the donors, and that was all over media, how he was, that little interaction with him. So it definitely depends on the culture you got, what kind of guys are around. But I mean, I'm if I was in Isaiah's place, I'd probably feel a certain way, but you got to be able to bottle that up and just be able to play, because that's business. I mean, that's how it's going to be, going forward. So you got to be able to keep all that stuff off the court.
That's funny. I remember when I was playing in France, like, beginning of the season, you hear whispers about what people are making, but like nobody really knows. And then I think like 2 or 3 months in the season, there was this media company that puts out everybody's salary, and then you kind of like, you start figuring out, and the energy just always changes around that time. At least for a couple weeks, the energy just always changes, man.
I'm sure some agents get fired after that stuff comes through.
Man, straight up.
No, it's kind of crazy, man. But I mean, have you seen have either of you guys seen or heard about like NIL becoming a distraction for a particular player in any way?
Um, I mean, I haven't seen it so much just because I said we have a great culture around here. So a lot of guys love to work and aren't really too much into that social media stuff. But nowadays, I see it just like literally everybody in high school or like all the guys a couple years younger than me. I've seen them like really trying to buy into their social media presence, really trying to do it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it you know how easy that stuff can come a distraction, especially with all the mental health stuff that comes up because of the effects of social media. You know, it just gets harder and harder to get away from all the pressures and stuff that comes along with it. So, you know, that's my one worry for everything is that everybody feels pressured to have to build that social media presence before they get to college. So that way, it's easier to get with brand deals and everything because 90% of them are based off of your social media. So that's the only thing is that it just pushes kids more and more into all that stuff. So.
Nah, that's real. Yeah, that's a really good point. I wouldn't even thought. So I'm glad you said something about the mental health side of it, because that I mean we keep talking about the social media part of it, and that turns out to be a huge part or selling point of all of this NIL stuff, right? Which is how good are you at social media, and so it's not. And so I think anything that you're doing, the further away you get from skill and quality at the sport, what I'm saying, that gets into that danger zone. And so, what I'm saying, if you Juju Smith-Schuster, who, you dancing all the time, what I mean? Like, and that's cool because you're going to get, somebody to pay you on TikTok for your TikTok presence to do what you do. But, like, at the end of the day, you're getting traded because you're not making as many receptions. You're not getting as many yards, right? And so it's, what I'm saying? So it's like you really got to stay committed to the craft and what you're doing on it. I'll say I haven't heard anything. So I haven't heard anybody specifically messing up chemistry. But I will talk about it does mess up the image of the team with so like this dude. I think his name is DeForest. No, Dakota's
Curtis Crawford.
Johnson or Wilson or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, Crawford. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so he got the deal with like the air conditioning company or whatever, right, for being Dakotist, right?
Yeah.
And so, but then he like his first year with the team, like I don't think he played at all. I don't think he caught. If he did play, his productivity wasn't good. So he like I don't think he caught any passes or anything, as a wideout. And then he's in the transfer portal the year after. And so it's like stuff like that just looks bad because it looks like business isn't getting done correctly, like they're not playing correctly. Where your investments in your recruits, what I'm saying, now that looks crazy because it's like, oh, y'all really wanted this guy who turned out not to be good, didn't stay at the program to develop, but caught a bag and left. It's a bad look, and so I can imagine that makes coaches' jobs harder, the graduate assistants' jobs harder, the scouts' jobs harder. It reflects on the program.
Oh, that's a great point, man. And I think even going back to like the mental health conversation, like I think when with this whole NIL experience, like you're like back in our day, I felt like we were placing our value on our performance, let's say on the court or on the field. And now, there's this other value that has arisen in regards to, okay, how much money am I making? Am I doing the right things on social media? And now, I mean, I think sports in general it's an emotional experience, and I think that, I mean, it's hard not to worry about the business side of things, especially, okay, my game, I just had a bad game. Is that going to affect the bread I'm going to make, next year or, forthcoming and things like that? Your teammate that's not passing you the ball, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how is that going to affect like a potential deal? Yeah, man, I'm just starting to think about just like how the mind can just get twisted because, I mean, this stuff just happens when it's just the sport in general. And like now, I mean, there's just so much else at play. I think it's kind of crazy, man. And just to think like, I mean, everybody, it seems like these, this new generation of collegiate athletes, I mean, they're vlogging, they're doing all this stuff with social media. Like, I remember we couldn't even like listen to like our iPods in certain places. Like, you know what I mean? We couldn't even have the music on, you know what I mean? Let alone have a cell phone out, you know? It's crazy to see the change in times, man. But, you know, I think it's definitely dope for the culture as a whole. But, Rome, what are some of the misconceptions you think that are out there these days in regards to NIL that should be addressed?
I'll say, you know, everybody thinks that because you see big deals in the headlines that one, everybody's getting this bag, and that's not the case. It was never gonna be the case, right? And then I think one thing that people don't know is like it's still not legal or permitted everywhere across the nation. Like there's still states that you can go to that will not allow you to make money off your stuff, and so most states have proposed laws or are changing, you know what I'm saying? And so it's coming for most everywhere. You know, the time is dependent on, you know what I mean? Like I think California goes online next year. I think New Jersey is like 2024. So it's you know, so I think those are things that, you know, I think everybody thinks that everybody can get to it now and then everybody's going to get paid. Like, no. Like Jerome wouldn't have got paid, right? I was good, but I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't that dude. I wasn't the face of the program. Nobody was excited to see me at media day other than the fact that I was on the team. So, you know, it's, I think those are two of the big ones. Spence, what you think? Yeah, you probably see it closer than I do.
Yeah, misconceptions. I'd say, yeah, for sure, is that the big deals are like what everybody's getting. Like most of the stuff people are doing is local stuff. Like for me, example, like I'm trying to get, you know, free meal from the local restaurants, or, you know, like a discounted massage from the massage place, get my body feeling, you know, even better, or like, you know, just like the simple like you know, massage product or something like that, you know. Like that costs like $150. All I gotta do is post something for it and I get it for free. That's most of what's happening. Like these big deals, now they happen to people who either have high social media followings or, you know, you're like the quarterback at Alabama and stuff like that. Also with that, like the people who are like the most active on social media in terms of like athletes and like the biggest names on like TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, you know, all that stuff. Most of those people, honestly, like their production in their sport is pretty low. Like it's just because they're devoting most of that time to that and not to their craft. Not to take anything away from them. I mean, they're building a business for themselves and all that. But like, you know, like you don't see Bryce Young on, you know, posting TikToks, Caleb Williams posting. You don't have to. You don't have to. He's on Saturday night. You're watching him on TV. Like the brands come to him, all that stuff. So there's still much more of an importance to work on your craft than to work on your social media presence. You know, there's a little give and take to that. So I'd say those are the two biggest misconceptions that I kind of run into, you know, when talking to people about it.
It's funny because I'm in this group chat, and you know, there's a bunch of college coaches and things like that, and we were recently just talking. They were talking. I was just reading, but they were talking about NIL and like some of the NIL money. You know, the floor at some of these schools, and you know, there are some schools where everybody's making, you know, $100,000 just for being on the team, and then you got some schools where guys are literally everybody's making $200 a month. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the floor. And it's funny because anytime NIL comes up, you know, we hear about the success stories and everybody making all this money, like, you know, the Oscar Tshiebwe from Kentucky, you know, and all that. And I think it's interesting because the guys that are able to bring in that kind of money, you know, now you flirt with the idea of, is it worth it to go pro, you know, right away and risk, you know, not getting that money? If you're not like, obviously, if you're not like guaranteed to get drafted, you know, and sign like a big deal, sometimes it may make sense, you know, sticking another year out at school, and now y'all got them super senior. Y'all got guys about
Right.
25 years old. Like,
I don't know.
it's like professional sports, like for real. What was it?
Yeah.
I think I was watching University of Miami last year, and like everybody was like 24 years old, 23,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yo, this is like a professional team.
But I've definitely lined up with some guys who had a couple kids, man. I ain't gonna lie.
That's so true.
But I mean, aside from kids, and I mean, kids kind of falls into this topic, but like going into the whole tax situation, So now that players are, they're making bread. Obviously, you start making bread, especially in our country. You gotta pay taxes. And Rome, what are some of the things you think athletes should start considering in regards to taxes and filing individually versus filing under your parents, and also claiming kids
Yeah.
if you got them, running around
Right.
running around the streets. Obviously, for the record and for the listeners at home, none of this stuff happens at Stanford because we are of an elite of an elite source. But you know what I mean. I think that for the other schools around there, what what do you think?
I mean, I think, to be honest, I think, the best way to go about it is I think I still advocate for everybody to create that LLC, so that you can start spending money on things that are going to help you, and limiting how much taxes you're supposed to pay anyway, right? So I still think that's a good option for folks. I assume, and Spencer, you can drop some knowledge on this, that these legal professionals that the school hooks you up with talks about, all right, you got 10 grand from the car dealership, you got to put this much away for taxes, right? Like, do they talk to y'all about that?
That was the first thing I learned, man. April 15th, man.
Man.
Now I hate that day forever. I ain't gonna lie, man. You always got to, if you get 20,000, you're gonna have to put a little bit of that away, and also just how to sign W-2, W-9 forms, stuff like that. Kind of walked me through that process. I still think I have a lot to learn about it, but I didn't know the basics now.
Yeah, so that's what I'd like, is that, if schools are going to do this right, hook them up with this, because there's somebody out there that in the NA schools network that can answer all of these questions, right? And so it just behooves the school to take care of their players and make sure that the IRS isn't coming for your starting five, you know what I'm saying, because they didn't pay from last year, you know what I mean, and now they got to deal with this while they're going into the tournament, right? So take care of your people, take care, make sure that's done. And like I said, I think, creating LLCs or business entities, and starting to figure out what, creative ways that, like, if you had to buy some new headphones for whatever, or if you had to do, what I'm saying, buy a green screen or a camera or a ring light or something for a promotion, all that stuff is business expenses that you can use to limit how much money you actually got to pay the government for, getting that check. And so you were going to spend the money anyway. So, it's just about being smart about how you spend your money, and where you can, keep more of it than you pay back to Uncle Sam.
Oh, that's smart. That's a real vet move right there, man. Writing off some of those expenses. You know what I'm saying? You might be able to write off a couple of lunches at Jimmy V's.
Come on,
Come on, man.
Cookies,
you know what I mean?
baby.
The cookies.
And that's the great thing about Stanford, man. All these econ majors, man. We'll find some loopholes. We'll find that.
Nah, you got to, man. And
Sir, do that.
you got to, because I think about it, like, with I always wonder, and obviously going back to the players that are making, like, crazy amounts of money, it's just you really do have to treat it like a business. Do you guys think, like, okay, let's just say a guy is making, we're not even gonna make it too astronomical, but, like, let's just say somewhere between like $100,000, $500,000, whatever we want to say. At what point do you think it's important to start putting together like a team of individuals? I know most guys got agents and stuff like that, but in regards to like maximizing your bread, at what point do you think it's necessary to start putting together like a small team to maximize your opportunities, while in college? Spence, you could take it first.
Oh yeah, man. I hadn't even thought about that really yet. But for me, like, I think I'll start thinking about that as soon as like I have enough to say that like whatever I want to buy, like realistically, not some like like some Porsche or some not that extra stuff, but like whatever like I need and can buy a plethora of. Once I have that much money, then I'm like, okay, now I can like I need a team to teach me how to really invest all this money besides just putting a little bit here in stocks and then a little bit there. Like when I actually can like buy like a decent amount of stocks and stuff like that, that's when I feel like I need a team to kind of show me how to really just like build that. When I have enough money where I feel like I can build a generational wealth, I need a team that's going to help me do that.
It's a good answer. Yeah, I think is AG how you started the question was I think it's kind of the right way to frame it. I think once you get to that amount of money, I think that's a good time to have a team. Saying like especially, and I'd say like for all of the positions, right? So, shameless plug for what's in the book that I wrote, but like I talk about like saying, do you need an agent? Like how much does an agent get? You know what I'm saying? Like or standard range for what they do. You know what I mean? Like start playing with that. Once you start looking at okay, somebody thinks I'm good at a sport and what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna be here for a while, right? Like if you are you're gonna be here for one more year, and you get your deal at the end of the year, you don't really need to get an agent for that, right? Because it doesn't really make sense time wise. But if you got hot in your red shirt sophomore year, and you've got two more because you're not going early, you know what I mean? Like then and you're getting deals of this size and getting this type of stuff. That's a good time to get an agent. That's a good time to get a business manager to start working with you on like what really is your brand whittled down to, you know what I'm saying, and what other type of partnerships should we go after, right? Because if you think that, what I'm saying, like I love food, so I just want to, say I got the Buffalo Wild Wings deal, so that's awesome, you know what I'm saying, but like, is it really that you love food or you love experiences, right? You know what I'm saying, is that your lane? And so, what I'm saying, now you can transition not just to restaurants, but to, other places that do, what I'm saying, similar stuff, and that's what a good business manager, what I'm saying, would help you do. So I think it's some version of once the pie gets big enough, and then once you see enough opportunity ahead of you as opposed to behind you, that's when you start looking for your team and letting people eat on you and working with you to maximize.
Yeah, I think especially when it also kind of like you said, it depends on when you're starting to get that bread in your college career too, and then I would also think like the amount of investments that you have, like. Okay, if you're investing in stocks and then you also want to start getting into, real estate, and then, maybe you want to invest, some form of entertainment or whatever it is, like now you're dealing with, 3 different realms. Like, you might need some help, managing all that, especially while you're still trying to, perform, and I think that sometimes having like a smaller team, might help you kind of maintain that focus, on your craft as opposed to having to do it all on your own, because I imagine it could get muddy.
That's the big reason why I advocate the team in the first place, is that you still got to go to class, you still got to go to practice, you still got to study what such and such is going to do to you when you play on Wednesday. So you don't really need to spend all of your time trying to figure out what rates are good for this type of deal in this specific industry. How you don't have time to research what they offered other folks, and that's not what you have time for. So like if by giving a percentage of whatever this deal is to whoever is on your team, that's what they can spend their time doing.
That's smart, man. And but transitioning to the international athletes out there in college sports, it feels like there's more and more, especially at high major schools these days. They kind of have a roundabout way about going through NIL, because technically they're not supposed to be making money off NIL, at least in this country, because they're on student visas, I believe. But as we all know, and we brought him up earlier. Well, I brought him up earlier. Oscar Tshiebwe, who was the Player of the Year last year, I think he's. I've heard he's making around like $3 million, but you got to kind of do it off shores. But So Rome, what is the rules in regards to international players, international college athletes, and how can they kind of sidestep that and be able to profit off their NIL?
Yeah, if you are an international student, meaning you have residence in another country and you come to the United States for school, you're not supposed to take part in this at all. Like no NIL money at all. Now, that's the appropriate and politically correct answer for how this works. There's still part of the community that gets to it, but go ahead, Spence, jump in.
Yeah, man, I know we got a guy in France, because we had a whole team deal about a couple months ago, and yeah, he still hasn't seen anything of it. I think they might have found something to where he can get a little bit some of that, but yeah, we've all been feeling bad for him, giving him a little extra love that he hadn't got anything from it. I don't know too much about it. I just knew that it the way it's constructed, if he had gotten it, it would have affected his visa, and that man would have been shipped all the way back overseas. So Yeah, it's a little different.
Man, he wasn't setting screens a little extra hard that day.
Yeah, he don't rotate back baseline like that no more.
I ain't get back on defense.
Yeah, that's a trip though. I don't understand. The thing that I don't like about the way they wrote the rule is for stuff like this, right? Like they easily could have allowed, your international teammates to be part of this, and I'm saying it is weird that they didn't. And I think this is kind of my gripe with how the deal got struck in the first place, because the deal was supposed to be for the money that the NCAA as a whole was making on college sports. And so that has something to do with, March Madness and the bowl games and, all of the television rights. But they didn't cut the athletes in on any of that part. You know what I'm saying? So they say, well, if there's money to be made that you all can go make on your own, then sure. But they still have all of your French, your African, your Asian teammates still on TV. You know what I'm saying? They're still being part of the same machine that's producing money and earning revenue for the university. So it's kind of messed up that they still are restricted in that way.
Yeah, no, I think that part needs to change, because, like you said, man, they're very much a part of the game as any other player, and especially some of the international players that are the draw. That are like some of the key players. I mean, they definitely deserve to get their hands on that. But as we start to wrap up here, man, what does NIL look like in the years to come? Is NCAA going to add more restrictions? What impact do you guys see it having on, like, development on the field or on the court, with some of these athletes as they try to, transition into professional sports with money in their pocket?
Mm-hmm. I think two things. I think one, you'll definitely see a lot more athletes, like every high school athlete, having an excessive social media, having a bunch of that, just so they can try to take advantage of all the NIL opportunities. And then two, I feel like there are going to be some restrictions in terms of, like, what schools can do for, like, all these team deals and stuff. Because really, like, when NIL first came out, you kind of saw it as, like, a lot of schools would build up, like, these, they call them, like, NIL school collectives, and it really would just be a middleman for, like, boosters just to, feed the money there when they would just trickle down to the players. And, there was no limits on that. So there'd probably be a limit on, how much money they can do that with, or, maybe they'll crack down and, really look at what some of these collectives are. But I feel like those are the two big things.
Yeah, completely agree. I'm hoping that in the future, I'm hoping that schools like Stanford take advantage. It's a huge network. There's a ton of money that's associated with the school. You know what I'm saying? And I hope that transitions into not just taking care of the players while they're there, but I hope that it helps recruit players to come to the program. Because Stanford's always gonna have an issue in the transfer portal, just because we still got academic standards, and so it's just tough for everybody to just show up here and be a part, even if they want to, even if they're wanting and willing to come. But I think that if we can sweeten the deal with with some recruits that are on the line, that that are close, I think that'll be good, really good for us, and our endowment's like $40 billion or something. Like, we got the bread with the school. Like, we could set some stuff out, and I hope that means we get more tournament runs. We show up and we keep the axe, in everything we do. I really want that for us, and I hope that other schools are already doing this sort of thing, especially with the collectives like you talked about. So, I hope Stanford takes advantage of it too.
Yeah, Stanford endowment's always been crazy. I thought it was absurd my freshman year when they were charging us, I think it was like $20 or $30 for internet or something like that in the dorm. I'm like, bro, yeah. What? Like, we ain't even getting no money. Y'all gonna charge me for the internet? That's like charging me for air outside. Like, that's it's crazy, man. But my last question for both of y'all, man. This being the Vet Moves podcast, and we'll start with the veteran, Mr. Jackson, first. What is one vet move you would have gave yourself as a rookie? Let's say as a rookie player, and what's one vet move you would have given yourself as a rookie lawyer, author, and the businessman that you've become?
For sports, for my sport, specific sport, like to make me a better football player or all overall stuff.
Yeah. No, you specifically. What's a vet move you would have given yourself? Your freshman year.
Film study. I was real interested in being real strong and fast and all that stuff. And I'm like, knowing where you need to go and like seeing it before you start moving, way more important. You know what I'm saying? I would have told him that. Yeah, keep looking at the film, let that get ingrained. And so when you show up and you see, somebody lean a little bit to the left or that little thing, that half a second right there, the process in your mind, that would have been a way bigger difference than trying to train your feet faster.
And on the business side, what's a vet move you'd have given yourself?
I mean, what I would say, I'd have invested in Google. I'd have bought Bitcoin. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I think we all kind of saw the change in technology coming, right? Like, so I think, this is a good one. I think, when me and you were in school, AG, I think Netflix was still doing DVDs. And so I think seeing that, oh, dang, you can for real, like just order DVDs in this new way that was innovative, that, was just a better model than trying to get me with no car to get off campus to go to Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, wherever. But they were coming to me with the service. I think seeing stuff like that and start looking at things, where the service is just better, where the opportunity is just better, and then, trying to get a part of that growth. I think I'd have started training myself a little bit better to have that eye.
Okay. Spence, what's a vet move you would have given yourself now that you a senior? You know what I mean? You at the end of the road, the light is shining at the end of the tunnel. You're almost on your way out. What's a vet move you'd have gave yourself as a freshman right now?
Man, he got my initial one on that film study, because that's definitely something I'm spending way more time doing now. Just those little like small advantages and knowing what someone else is going to do, and also just it really helps you improve your game cerebrally. Just knowing how to read the court and all that stuff. But since he said that one, I'd say really embracing competition more early on. And what I mean by that is, like, you come into a new situation, you hear all these stories about Michael Jordan, Kobe, like going after the top dogs, like one-on-one after practice. I remember hearing this story about how, like, Michael Jordan in North Carolina came in, wanting to, after practice, pressing James Worthy to play one-on-ones with him. And, like, looking back, I'm like, all the things I learned both defensively and offensively from all the older guys, that I played with, all their instincts that I learned and applied to my game, and it could have happened so much faster if I really just pushed them competitively, because they're not going to back down. They're not going to, like, no senior's going to, if you ask to play ones, you're really on his head day after day after day. They're going to look a little soft, not taking it. So they're going to eventually, they're going to accept that challenge. And as a freshman, there's only nothing you can do but learn from that. So that's something I wish I did, really push more myself, to really challenge myself and them, and really just learn from them and more from that. So yeah.
That's a good point, man. And I will say for any athlete out there, man, film, it's something I hated, but I think it doesn't lie, man, and it's one of the most important things. You can slow it down, you know what I'm saying, and especially in sports are so like reactionary, you know what I mean. That's the only way to kind of get that picture, the right way. And I think that when you start seeing athletes and you're like, everybody always says, oh, the game's slowing down for them and stuff like that. That's because they've seen it a million times, in real life and on film. And I think that there's no secret to it, but it is boring as hell, especially when you're young. You just I just want to play, you know what I mean. But film's definitely it's definitely important, man. But fellas, I appreciate y'all time coming in here and shining some light, with such elegance. But what I mean, that's what we expect, coming from the farm. But I appreciate both of y'all being on, sharing your experiences and shedding light on this topic. Everybody back home, please stay tuned to everything that we got coming forward. We're gonna continue dishing out these vet moves, across all hemispheres. But I appreciate y'all, fellas. Get some rest tonight. And go Stanford. Spence, man, best of luck, man, during the season. You know, me and Rome don't play no more, man. We working on our dad bods, but you know what I mean. Enjoy it, man. Go make us proud, man. Because listen, I'm telling you, you're gonna experience this when you leave. I don't care what sport Stanford is playing. It's like we use that as an opportunity to talk trash to everybody around us. So, like, you're not just playing for you. You're not just playing for you. You playing. We're the ancestors. You're playing for the ancestors, my brother.
We with you, T'Challa.
I got you. All right, we'll give you something to talk about then. We'll give you something to talk about.
All right, no doubt, man. And that's all we got. We out.